good night, everyone. Just tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma Spiritual, but I'm here to give you a word on tonight, and we still doing Bible study, cause I know y'all gonna see the titles about the frogs and all that, but we doing Bible study, so we going chapter by chapter, So this one here is the third sign to flash of frogs, Exodus chapter 8 1 through 15. Okay, so now 7 days had passed. So after the Lord struck the Never River, the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh, and say, 'Let my people go.'" See, God gonna keep on pressing him to let his people go, but at the same time, God gonna keep hardening his heart, so that they may worship me. Now, Moses said, "Let my people go so they can worship me." Remember Moses had wanted to take them for 3 days in the wilderness, and Pharaoh said no. So the plans, so if Moses tell him, if you refuse, you know, to let them go, this will happen. So Moses said, if you keep on refusing, this will happen. God will send a flash of frogs, on his whole country, and the Nile River with things with frogs, and they will come into the palace, come into your palace, will come into your bedroom, will come in your houses, will come in your oven. God not playing. And now the frogs will be everywhere, and it will come up on him and his people. Now God not playing. Now these frogs, he said these frogs gonna be everywhere. Gonna be in his palace, gonna be on his people, gonna be in his houses. He said these in his oven. So these frogs just gonna be everywhere. So the Lord told Moses, tell Aaron to stretch his hand with his staff to make the frogs come up on the land of Egypt. Now these frogs here gonna be all over Egypt. Egypt is big. Aaron did as God told him, and he stretched his hand over the water of Egypt, and the frogs came up over the land. You know, Frogs all over the land. And Egypt is big. But God is big too. So the magician, you remember Pharaoh have these wise magicians, that do magic. See, they keep on thinking this is magic, this is God power. So they did the same thing. They also made the frogs everywhere. So they try to do everything God do. They're trying to do everything. They're trying to see if that's a real God. Because they figure, okay, you made frogs, okay, we doing the frogs too. So they figure it's magic. They don't think it's real. They don't think his power is being done. So Pharaoh, he's some of Moses and Aaron. He said, look, Pharaoh said, look, I see frogs everywhere. But I need you to pray to your God, to take all these frogs away, from me and from my people, so I will let your people go. He said, I will let your people go, you know. So he said he would let the people go, but Moses replied, it will be as you say, for you to know that there is no one like the Lord. And see, that's what all these powers really for. Because see, God know he served little images of God. But they keep on praising these little images of God. Because God keep on telling them, I'm gonna keep on showing my power, so you could see that your image of God cannot do these things. So Moses said, it will be as you said, for you to know. See, Moses want him to know there is no one like the Lord. You know, that's what he want him to know. And see, let me see. And then right here, he said there is no one like the Lord, and the frogs will leave you. Now Moses want him to say there's no one like the Lord. And if you could say there's no one like the Lord, then I pray to my God to remove all these frogs. Now he gonna keep on saying it, but he still will not let the people go. he still will not let the people go. You know, so then up here he said, you know, Moses keep on telling him, you know, I need you to let the people go so they can sacrifice with me in the wilderness. You know, so now he said, I will let them go. You know, pray to your Lord about the flowers, and I will let your people go and sacrifices to the Lord. You know, so he said, he's saying if I let them go, he said they have to sacrifice near the Never River. He don't want them to go no far where he cannot see 'em. You know, so he trying to compromise. He's trying to compromise with Moses. Okay, I let them go, but they have to go where he can see them at, near the Never River. You know, and sacrifice. You know, so that's the only way he'll let them go. You know, so Moses said, if you acknowledge that there is no one like the Lord our God, you know, and then the frogs will leave you in your house, offer to your people, but it will remain in the river, the Nile River. You know, so God said, okay, I will remove the frogs, you know, from everywhere, but I'm only gonna keep the frogs in your own river, in another river. And that's where I'm gonna keep the frogs at. You know, you're not gonna get everything removed because you still not gonna release my people. You know, so Moses had left Pharaoh and he cried out to God, you know, about the frogs, you know, and you brought on Pharaoh. You know, so God did what Moses asked, and the frogs died, you know, in the houses, wherever the frogs was at, besides the river. So God said he not gonna remove them from out the river. Wherever the frogs at, the houses, you know, the county yard, you know, in the field, you know, all the frogs had died. You know, all the frogs had died, and Pharaoh saw that there was relief. You know, because he just panicked. You know, frogs just everywhere. You know, so now he looked around. He saw the frogs was all dead. You know, so then he had a relief, but his heart, you know, his heart was still hard. His heart was still hard. He still did not want to listen to Moses. You know, he still did not release. Uh, Pharaoh would not listen to Moses. In error. Just as the law said. Now he gonna release them temporary and told them they can go sacrifice, but it have to be where he can see them, near the river. So he compromised, you know, or letting these people go. So Moses cried out to God to remove the frogs, and he did, but Pharaoh still did not let the people go because his heart was hardened. So now we see that God are still using his power. And we see that every time he uses his power, his the magicians trying to do the same thing. But that doing magic. And they think God doing magic, but God using his power. Players are now the players that God is sending, he's gonna send at least 10 of them. Are an instrument of God, wealth, a punishment for unrighteousness. Think here of the plague's visit on Egypt. So when Pharaoh refused to let the Hebrew worship, God in the desert of the outbreak of torment among the Philistines, after they captured the ark in the covenant, God would be sending 10 plagues, towards Pharaoh. You know, so we're gonna look at Exodus chapter 8, 16 through 18. The plagues of the Gnats. Now the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron to stretch out his staff and strike the dust of the ground. Now the dust will turn into gnats. So it's gonna turn into gnats. I mean, it's just gonna be everywhere. And Aaron did what God said. Gnats came on the people, it came on the animals, throughout the land of Egypt. These gnats were just everywhere. So every time God used his power, here come Pharaoh magician, try to produce gnats by their own secret art and could not. Now they did it last time with the frogs. They produced the frogs. But now they're trying to use their little magic art, to do the nets, and they could not do it. Now we see the magician could not produce the net. Now, since the nets was on the people, it was on the animals, everywhere. And now, since the magician could not produce, now they know that this is the work of God. See, they was doing everything God was doing. Every time God was using His power, doing different plans He was sending out, the magician was doing everything. So every time they'll do whatever God do, they was thinking that was magic, because see, they do magic. They do all a magic. So when they were doing everything God was doing, okay, we don't believe this is Pharaoh. This is number magic. Otherwise it wasn't no magic. God was using His power. They do magic. So this time He tried to do the same thing with the nets. He could not produce it. So now He see that this is the work of God. This is the work of God. I can't produce this here. You know, he could not produce it. And he tried and he tried. So he had told Pharaoh. So he told Pharaoh, Pharaoh wanted to compromise. He would allow the Hebrew to sacrifice, but only if they do it near by God requirement. Now however was firm, the Hebrew had to leave Egypt, and the people compromised. They compromised. So see, when Pharaoh compromised with them, they were like okay with it. So okay, we're gonna go by the Nile River. We're gonna find us a little spot right there and worship. But God didn't want to do it like that. So the Hebrew had to leave Egypt, and the people compromised and give only portion obedience to God's command. Because God, they're not supposed to have no connection with them at all. They weren't supposed to compromise with Pharaoh. So we see that God had sent plagues of frogs, on Pharaoh, and the magician did the same thing, and the frogs came up. But Pharaoh did not let the people go. Now we see that God sent this on the people and animals. Pharaoh magician tried to do the same thing on that, and could not produce it. So the magician know that this is the finger of God. This is the finger of God. But Pharaoh, heart was still hardened, and he still did not want to listen. He did not want to listen. Did not let the people go. So we see that God was still is using His power, still using His power on Pharaoh to let His people go. So we see that God kept on hardening Pharaoh's heart, and Pharaoh still refused to let God's people go. And we see that God was using His power, had frogs everywhere, had nests everywhere, but by Pharaoh's heart was still hardened, he refused to let the people go. Now he also had his magician, trying to do their little art magic. It worked with the frogs, but they tried to do the nest and they could not produce it. When they could not produce the nest, then they realized, okay, this is the finger of God. This is the work of God doing. This is power. See, all the while they didn't believe that was God using the power. They thought God was doing magic because they do magic. Okay, he got frog. Okay, we gonna do the same thing. He got snake. All that had worked. Besides, when he tried to do the next, he could not perform it. And God constantly gonna always show His power, so that just like Moses had Pharaoh, to acknowledge that He is the only true God, the only true God, and so the magician thought that was magic. So we see God gonna keep on using His power to let them know nobody else can do what He do. He's the only true God, can use the power, and this ain't no magic. Power, the power of God. He the only one has the power. Anytime we using power, it's always coming from God. So this is all the word I have for you on today. Y'all have a blessed night, and I see y'all in the next video.